Hi everyone. Welcome to the end of week 6 of English 1302. Got just a couple of things to go over with you this afternoon. First, I should be completely finished grading your first research papers, your R1 projects, by tomorrow morning. However, please do not just look at the grade. The grade's just a number. You won't learn much from that. Go back to where you turn the paper in, back under the research writing module. Click on that R1 turn it in link. That will pull up your paper along with my comments. I try to make good comments on the first paper. After this, we'll probably be using the rubrics. But on the first paper, I try to make enough comments so that you can see, at least get a general idea of the direction of your writing. Now, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. It's most helpful if you will copy and paste the sentence or the paragraph, send that to me in an email, not a Blackboard message. Don't hit reply to a message I've sent earlier, but start a new email, jfly@southplainscollege.edu. Copy and paste that section in, and then ask whatever question, whatever you'd like to know about it. I can answer your questions really easily that way, and we'll probably get back to you a lot more quickly. The most common problem on these papers has been essay structure. Your thesis has to clearly answer the research question, and I mean just really, really clearly. And in case you haven't figured this out by now, I like plain, simple writing. I like writing that it's difficult to misunderstand. So, for example, on the first one, if you were writing about, let's see, we were doing Macbeth, and if you were writing about, I don't know, let's say Lady Macbeth, and you want to say that she did deserve her fate because, now that should be your thesis. Lady Macbeth did deserve her fate because she was evil, she was mean, she was ugly. Then your first topic sentence, your first body paragraph should begin with, Lady Macbeth did deserve her fate because she was mean. Second body paragraph, and then a quote from the play, and then the support explanations. Next body paragraph, Lady Macbeth did deserve her fate because she was ugly, or whatever the next idea was. But go ahead and repeat those key phrases. Those become transitions that link the ideas together and helps the reader to follow your ideas. Look at the example papers. I cannot emphasize that enough. Those sample papers, those examples are posted so that you can see what the structure should look like, what the in-text citation should look like. There were a couple of people who lost points on their works cited page, which is kind of sad because, I mean, I literally just gave it to you and see here, copy and paste this, but you got to follow directions. Online classes can be very difficult because they require a lot of dedication and motivation. I'm following a guy on TikTok right now. His name is Professor Galloway, and he's a college professor, and he has lots of good advice for his students. And one of the first videos I saw of his had a very profound idea in it. It was basically this: get the easy things right. In college, especially in online classes, there's going to be lots of things to worry about, lots of hoops to jump through. And of course, you want to get them all right if you can, but if nothing else, get the easy ones right. And format is one of the easiest ones. Look at what the sample format heading looks like. See what the font looks like. See what the spacing looks like. I hate deducting points because someone forgot to double space, or someone used the wrong font, or someone put the wrong heading, or yeah, you get the idea. Just look at the example. Look at the explanations. Be sure you watch the videos, of course. But be sure to get the easy things right. Then work on the harder, the more difficult, more challenging things. This week we had 2 short stories. I hope you enjoyed them. Boy, they could not be more different. The Shroud, written by the Brothers Grimm, and that should tell you right there, it's kind of a little horror story. It's about a little boy who dies, and his mother won't stop crying. A shroud is literally, it's like a sheet that they used to use to cover dead people with. We don't use them so much anymore. Body bags are more common. But notice why she can't quit crying. Interesting. And then, of course, his ghost appears. And the point of that story, the reason I assign it, is so that you can see that you don't have to have these big, long 10 or 12 page, 20 page short stories. You can have all the essential elements of a short story in just one paragraph. And it does has protagonist, antagonist. The setting is kind of vague, but everything else is there. And the theme is, I guess, don't cry too much over your kid, no matter how good looking he is. But a cask of Amontillado, boy, that really brings up the question of, is this an unreliable narrator? Did this really happen at all? Is he misremembering? Is he lying to us? If you go back and look at the second to the last sentence, it'll tell you this all happened 50 years ago. 50 years. The memory can play tricks on you over 50 years. You might also ask yourself, why did he not tell us what the insults were that triggered all this? He says, 1,000 injuries I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, that's when I had to stand up and take stock. My words, not his. But Edgar Allan Poe is a good author. He is famous for his style, and you'll notice he uses really fancy words and really fancy sentences. A lot of his words, like the word cask, was old-fashioned even when he was alive. He had to reach back into the past and pull this word out, but it fit what he wanted. The word cask just means a barrel of wine, or a wine is referring to the barrel itself, but it sounds like the word casket. So kind of get you in the mood just from the title. Be sure you keep the two characters straight. There's really only two characters here, Fortunato and Montresor or Montresor. The first guy, his name means lucky. The second guy, his name means Mr. Now, this does give us a chance to talk about literary criticism. Of course, you can always use formalism, but you can't always use all of the other ones. Why? Well, because, for example, feminist theory says, how would this story have been different, or how would it have been more meaningful if the women weren't minimized, marginalized, or ignored? Well, this story doesn't have any women in it. So other than just being left out entirely, how would it change the story? Suppose the protagonist had been female, or the antagonist had been female. Of course, given the setting, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you get the idea. If there had been a woman who had been abused or neglected in the story, then you could, a feminist approach would be much more effective, I think. Okay, let's talk about your research paper. Your second research paper is going to be based on the story Barn Burning. I posted a link to that. But, of course, there's not a lot online. I was really surprised that there's not more versions online. You can go to any library, any bookstore. Lots of your old textbooks are going to have, I'm assuming you guys have a large collection of anthologies laying around, but Barn Burning is a very popular story, and it's widely available in physical copy. So anyway, you're going to read the story Barn Burning very carefully. Look up and you want a close reading. You want to think about it. You want to make a list of the main characters, and there's not that many of them. Sardi the boy, his dad, Abner, really the only two. I mean, there's a lot of minor characters. Even Major Despain doesn't really have that much to do with the story. It is called a coming of age story because Sardi does grow up at a very tender age. But be sure you get the characters straight. The setting is key to this. You need to understand the setting. You need to understand the emotional scar that the Civil War left on this country back in the 1860s. And attempting to recover from that was a big challenge for our nation. Yes, Abner Snopes, the father, stole horses from both sides. He was a traitor and a criminal during a time of emotional patriotism, and he would have been really, really looked down on. They moved around a lot simply because he kept pissing off the people he worked for, and they would fire him, and then he would burn their barns. And this was a repeated fact. This happened over and over again. But I'll let you read the story. Once you've read it at least a couple of times, Then you want to go back to our list of vocabulary words and pick one. Setting, style, symbolism, character, theme, any of those would work, and focus. Now be sure that your vocabulary word and the title of the story is in your thesis. In barn burning, setting, it's very helpful to understanding the story. The use of characterization is instrumental in the story barn burning. Somewhere in the introduction, of course, you want the author's name, William Faulkner. And then same thing as before, you're going to have probably 3 body paragraphs. Each one has a short direct quote from the story or from one of your 2 sources. Now you're going to have the short story itself plus 2 outside sources. Please do me a favor, do yourself a favor. For your search engine, use Google Scholar. Google.com/scholar, because it will pull up only those sources which meet the 4 criteria. Be sure you review that PowerPoint on source evaluation so you'll know what to look for. But if you use Google Scholar, it will pretty much do that for you. So find 2 sources. And here's what I would do. I would read the story carefully, and then I would pick a vocabulary word, say setting, or pick 3. Say setting, character, and irony. Go to Google Scholar, type in barn burning, and put it in quotation marks, and then type in barn burning symbolism. See how many hits you get. Then go back, barn burning characterization. See how many hits you get. Go back, barn burning setting. See how many hits you get. And then whichever one has the most hits, that's the one you use. But again, you only need 2. You'll probably get between 1 and 2,000 hits on each one of those. You only need 2 sources. Just make sure they meet all 4 criteria: authority, depth, timeliness, and citation. And then you have a quote from each one that supports the point you're trying to make. And your point can be something really simple, like setting is really important in barn burning, or characterization is essential to understanding, or growing up happens at a young age in barn burning. Just something simple, something straightforward if you want to. Again, we're more interested, on this paper, we're interested in source evaluation and, of course, essay structure. All right, I hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll talk some more later.